At its core, a crisis is a rupture. It's an series of events that have really disrupted the normal social functioning that we live in day to day. Human security, coping mechanisms are all challenged by such an event, but they're not all the same in terms of origin. Some are natural, such as hurricanes and floods. Some are anthropogenic or man made, such as armed conflict, terrorism, systemic failures of governance, industrial accidents. Natural disasters are traditionally understood through the logic of the hazard, the exposure, and vulnerability. The focus here is often on the physical trigger, the event, the earthquake, the storm. But we understand that what makes these events truly disastrous is not just the hazard itself, but it's the impacts, the social, economic, and political conditions that are created by this rupture. We use tools to approach such types of disasters from the environmental sciences, engineering, spatial planning, hazard mapping, risk modeling, early warning systems, mitigation infrastructure, etc. It's a heavy reliance on forecasting preparedness and technical interventions. On the other hand, man-made crises follow a very different type of logic, and they're often rooted really in intent, complexity, and quite honestly, greed and power. These include industrial accidents like the 2023 East Palestine, Ohio train derailment, or last year's collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore Harbor, or systemic failures such as the water crises in Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi, where decisions made by institutions, whether deliberate, negligent, or simply short-sighted, created and exacerbated harm. In this instance, the tools that we use must go beyond the natural sciences. We have to look to political science, ethics, sociology, and law to really investigate accountability, to examine institutional dynamics, and then consider the role of misinformation, ideology, or corruption. Man-made crises demand tools of governance, regulation, justice mechanisms, public communications, and participatory decision-making. What's critical to recognize is that the boundary between the two types is increasingly blurred. Think of climate change. It amplifies natural hazards like droughts and storms, but its root causes lie in decades of human behavior, policy inadequacies, and inaction. Or consider a pandemic. It's a natural virus with devastating global impacts, but shaped profoundly by political decisions, social inequality, and health system capabilities. This blurring means that the toolkits we once reserved for either type of disaster are really no longer adequate and can't be maintained siloed. A technocratic response might stabilize an earthquake, but it won't rebuild trust in a community neglected by public officials. Similarly, political reform might be critical after a crisis like a mass shooting or a refugee surge, but it won't suffice without operational readiness and logistical support. In short, the origin of a crisis shapes its trajectory, but it doesn't limit our response. As emergency managers, we must cultivate multidisciplinary fluency. We need to be comfortable with meteorological data and social justice theory, with logics, and with law. We need to not only understand the different and varied aspects of an impactful event, but we need to be able to communicate clearly across a wide variety of impacted audiences. Because whether crises are natural or man-made, they're always human in impact, in response, and in memory.